All right, I'm going to start by creating the movies component. So here in the source folder, we need to add a new folder, components, and in the components folder, we're going to add a new file, movies.jsx. Now remember the shortcuts that I taught you earlier? So IMRC, which is short for import react component. So look, import react component, okay? The other one is CC, which is short for create class. Now we're gonna call this movies and press the escape button. Okay, now for now, I don't wanna render a complex table. I just wanna render a simple message and make sure we have built the skeleton properly. So let's just add an H2 element here, movies component. Save the changes. Now we need to go back to app.js. So this is the container for our application. Earlier we added this hello world here. Now I want to replace this with our movies component. So on the top, first we need to import movies from current folder /movies. And then I'm going to replace this with a movies element. Now note that in JSX, if there is nothing between the opening and closing tag, you should use the self-closing syntax. If you don't do this and save the changes, this prettier plugin will automatically do this for you. So back in the browser, we have an error here, module not found. So we can't resolve this movies module because I made a mistake. So back in app.js, if you look at the project folder, app.js is not in the components folder. And for now, I don't want to move it there. I just want to leave it here. So the correct path to the movies module is like this, components/movies. Now back in the browser, here we have our movies component rendered properly, beautiful. So back in the movies component, here we want to render a bootstrap table. Let's have a quick look at bootstrap documentation to see what the structure of a bootstrap table looks like. So on getbootstrap.com, let's go to the documentation and here search for tables. And next, if you scroll down, you can see the structure of a bootstrap table. So we need a table element with the table class. Inside the table, we should have a t-head for our heading. Inside the t-head, we should have a tr. And inside the tr, we should have a bunch of th elements. Now next to the t-head, we should have a t-body. And inside that, we should have one or more TRs with a bunch of TD elements. So pretty straightforward, right? Now back in our movies component, instead of manually typing the structure like table, t-head, tr, this is so time consuming. Let me show you a quick way to generate this markup. So we want to have a table with the class table. Inside the table, we should have a t-head. And inside the t-head, we should have a tr. And inside the tr, we should have 4 th elements. So th times 4. Press the tab, and this generates this markup for us. This technique is called Zen coding. So let's add our column headings here. The first one is the title of the movie. Then we have genre, we have stock, and rate. Now similarly, we should have a t-body. Inside the t-body, we should have a tr, and inside the tr, we should have 4 td elements. So td times 4. Tab, we get this markup. Now we want to render this dynamically. So for each movie, we should render a row. Now we need to get our movies, store them in an array, and map each element in that array to a tr element. So on the top, we need to import our fake movie service. Let's have a quick look at this file. So fake movie service. So on the top, you can see we have an array of movies, but because we have not exported this, this is private in this module. Now, if you scroll down, you can see a bunch of exported functions. The first one is get movies, which returns all the movies. The second one is get movie, which returns a movie with a given ID. And we got a couple more functions that we don't care about at this stage. So we need to import this function from this module. Back in our movies component, on the top, import. We're going to use curly braces because we're dealing with named exports. We want to import the get movies function from. Now currently we are in the components folder. So we need to go one level up and then go to the services folder and then load the fake movie service. Okay. Now here's our state object. We should add a property to it called movies. And we're going to initialize it by calling this getMovies function. Now, this is not the right way to initialize the state property. We're going to look at that later in the next section when we talk about components lifecycle hooks. For now, don't worry about it. So we have initialized our state object. Now, finally, here, we should add a JavaScript expression. We get this.state.movies, call the map method, get each movie object and map it to a tr element like this. So cut this from here and paste it here. Save the changes to reformat the code. You can see this Prettier plugin automatically closed our TD elements because we didn't have anything inside them. So now I have to delete this and one more time generate 4 TD elements. So TD times 4. Okay, now we have the opening and closing tags. So in the first column, we want to render movie, the title. And the second one, we want to render movie, the genre, that name. In the third column, movie dot number in stock. And finally, in the last column, movie dot daily rental rate. Save the changes one more time. Back in the browser, we should see the list of our movies in a table. Beautiful. Next, we'll add a delete button to each row.